Hi everybody, welcome back to DayZ, and in this video tutorial I'm going to show you how to spawn in custom buildings using the new tools that have been given to us in 1.15, and to also be able to add loot spawning into these custom buildings as well. And this works for PlayStation, Xbox and PC. As you can see, we're up at the northeast airfield, and I've added a large ATC tower and a little tent. So adding a little bit of interest to it. I'm sure you guys can do much better. I'm going to show you two methods. We're going to use a basic method to get the coordinates required, and then I'm going to show you how to use DayZ Editor, which you can run on a local PC, which makes things quite a lot easier, and you can do things a lot quicker as well. First off though, what we need to do is we need to get our server ready to be able to take custom buildings. And the way that you do that is go over to your server provider. In this case, we've got Nitrado. Go to the general settings, and down at the bottom it says enable cfggameplay.json. So tick that, save it, and restart the server. Then we need to get hold of this cfggameplay.json so we can edit it. So if you go to your file browser, that'll take you into here, and then go to Xbox missions, and then if it's if it's a Livonia server, it'd be Enoch. If it's a Chernus server, it'd be Chernus. So click on the relevant file folder, and then you'll get into the missions folder. And so what we're after is cfggameplay.json. So you want to download that so that you can then open it up in your favorite text editor, as you can see I have done here, and it will kind of look something like this. Now, if you're working on PC, I always recommend you do this on a local server first, and you can search my videos for how to install a local server. And what you want to do is you want to change your file structure a little bit on your local server, and probably on your remote server as well when you come to do that, in the fact that within your mission file, so for example in the Chernus mission file, I've added a custom folder. Now the reason for this is because when I'm doing these tutorials, I'm mainly speaking to console players, and on console players on Nitrado servers we have to put our custom JSONs in the custom folder on our Nitrado servers, otherwise they won't work. So if you do this, it enables you to follow along a little bit easier. So as you can see, I've created a custom folder there. Now what you want to do then is on your text editor, this is Notepad++, we want to create, so do file new, and we just want to create a custom JSON. Now because we're going to be creating, this file is going to have a ATC tower up at the northeast airfield, I've saved it as, I've called it neaf atc.json. Because it's theirs. I know it's already open. Thank you very much. So it's neaf atc.json, and then you want to go and find the array that's called objectSpawnersArr. All right, and your one will probably look something like. Cut this out. Your one will probably look like that. And so what we want to do into there, we want to paste the name of where the cfggameplay.json can find our custom JSON file. And this is the thing that lots of console players have been tripping up on, in the fact that you have to put in the relative address of the file. So we put in quotation marks custom /neafatc.json, and then we close the quotation marks, and then we close the square brackets. Now the name of the custom file that we put our custom locations in can be anything you want, as long as it's a JSON file and as long as it's in the custom folder. And the beauty of this system is that you can have lots of different JSON files relating to different things. So I'd imagine over the next few weeks and the next few months, what's going to happen is you're going to get lots of modders creating custom JSON files to spawn things in on our maps, and you can have these separately within the custom folder. Just try and give them a name that's a little bit descriptive so that you know. Now the next thing is, what format do we have to use for these JSON files? So what I'll do is I'll put a link to article on Bohemia Interactive's website, which explains how the object spawner works, and give it a good read. But they've got a template, so if you click on show the template, and what you can do is if you just select all of this. Woo. We just copy the whole of the template. Then go back to our empty file and we just paste it in. And we just save that. We've now got the format that we need to use. And if we have a look at it, you can kind of, it starts to become a little bit self-explanatory. So it says objects, so we've got name. So the name of the object we want to spawn, in this case, is land, wall, gate, fence. Position, so we've got X, Y, and Z. And then you've got YPR, or your pitch and roll. So, all right, okay, so all we need to do then is we need to find the name of the thing we want to spawn in. And then the X, Y, and Z. So X and Z are the horizontal and like the latitude and longitude. And the Y is the altitude, and that's the tricky one. And your pitch and roll is the rotation. So your is the rotation of the building. Pitch is how much it tips backwards and forwards, and roll is how much it tips side to side. And then it will spawn it in. Now, it's important to remember that all this will do is this will just spawn in the building without any loot. What we have to do is, if we want loot to spawn in at the building, we need to add it also to our mapgrouppos.xml file, because that's the bit that says to the central economy in DayZ, look, there's one of these ATC towers here at this location. Please put the correct loot in it, and that's what mapgrouppos.xml does. Okay, so we're kind of ready to go. We've got the format. So now what we need is our coordinates, don't we, of where this is going to be. And the tricky thing is the altitude, because you can get X and Z from iSurvive, can't you? You just go on the iSurvive map on the website. You can click anywhere, Control-C, and it'll copy the coordinates. But it doesn't give us the altitude, because it's important to remember that with this particular method as well is that you can put things in the air. Okay, so if you want something to sit nicely on the ground, you have to get the Y coordinate. Now, as far as getting the Y coordinate from your server, one of the things you can do is go to your server logs, and there's a few different ways of doing this. But if you open up the server log of your server, you'll find as you log in and log out, and also where the player locations are, you'll see here we have the position. So for example, in this server, it was keeping an eye on me, so scale speeder, and there's my pos. So my pos, so X, Y, and Z. So I could put in that location, and it gives me the X and the Z, so the latitude and longitude roughly, and then I've got the altitude as well. The problem is that it only records that position every 5 minutes, so you might not know where you are. So one of the ways to confirm where you are on the map is actually to log out and log in. And then what that will then give you is it will say player scale speeder logged out at this time at this location, or logged in. So that then gives you a firm place on the map where you are. The other thing you can do as well is you can place items as well. So if, for example, you placed a fireplace, one that you make out of some sticks and some bandages, that will say you then place that item. So then that gives you those coordinates. So let's say in this particular case then, where we wanted to spawn in something, a building, an ATC. So what's the next step? So the next step really is thinking about, well, what's it called? What's it called, this thing we want to spawn in? And there's a few ways of finding out. One of the best ways is to check your mapgrouppos.xml. And also you can check the iSurvive map. So for example, if we go to iSurvive, like so, and then we click on something, you'll get the name of something. So Land Mish Feed Shack, for example, in that case. But let's go to, say, because we want to do an ATC tower, don't we? Let's go to the here, and let's find the ATC tower. Where is it? There it is. There's the prison. Why can't I see the ATC tower? Am I being blind? Is that it there? ATC tower. So Land Mill ATC Big. So what we can do is we can now copy that. And what's important with this is that you must check your mapgrouppos.xml has one of these things in it. So if we paste that in and we search, find all in current document, you can see there is one in the mapgrouppos. The reason why I say that is because if you pick a name of something, you may well be able to spawn it on the map, but if it's not in the mapgrouppos.xml, you won't be able to spawn in any loot. For example, what I'll do is I'll put a link in the description below the video to a list of like a list of buildings and things like that you can get in DayZ. And one of the things is the ATC small. But because the ATC small doesn't spawn in on the Churnerus map, because I don't think it does, it's not in the mapgrouppos, you can spawn that building in, but you won't be able to spawn in any loot. Okay, so we know we want to spawn in a land mill ATC big, so let's just make sure that we've got that copied properly. And then we could go back to our neafatc.json, and what we could do is we can just put the name there. There we go. And we decided that, we looked at our logs earlier on, and we decided that this location here, this was where we wanted to put it. Obviously, in real life, you would spawn in, you would go to the northeast airfield, and you would log in and log out there. So let's just copy that. And what we'll do, we'll just put some spaces, and we'll just paste it there. Now it does kind of disappear. So then what we need to do is you just need to copy those coordinates. So we go, so we cut that one out. Put it in there. Cut that one out. And put it in there. Be very careful you don't delete any of the commas or anything like that. And then finally, that one out. Cut that one out. We pop that in there. And then let's get rid of those commas. So now we've got the position where we want our ATC to be. The problem is we haven't got the yaw, pitch and roll. So we haven't got the rotation. The first one, that's the rotation. So that's the thing you're going to have to mess around with. And that's where you also get the advantage of when you place something, it will give you the yaw as well. So you can put that in. It also means that we're not getting any pitch or roll. So if the building we want to put on is on a slope or something, we're going to have to play around with that, log in, see how it looks and log out again. Again, sometimes you will get some of that from when you place stuff, but generally you've got to fiddle around a lot more if you're getting these figures from your logs, because you don't get all the details that you can get from other methods. And then if we wanted to put the tent in as well, what we could do is we could find the tent. Let's have a look at which one we chose. So it was the land mill tent big 2. So what you could do in that case, again, you could go back to iSurvive, and you could say, actually, let's have a look up at Tent City. Up here. Click on one of these. That's called Land Mill Tent Big 3. So let's copy that. Again, we want to go back to our mapgrouppos, and we want to make sure that this is in our mapgrouppos. Otherwise, we won't be able to get anything to spawn in. So there it is, Mill Tent Big 3, so that's cool. And then we could go to our neafatc JSON. We could put in that there. And then we put in the coordinates that we've got from our logs. And once that's in, we're pretty much good to go. We just need to then delete all these other items. Get rid of those. Get rid of that. Now, once you get to this point, and you kind of think, okay, so I'm fairly good to go, and you save it. What you always want to do, and I'll put a link to the description below the video, you always want to check whether this JSON is valid or not. So you want to go to a JSON validator and formatter. So hopefully what we should be able to do now is if we go into our custom, and I'm about to get this, and I drop it into here, and we process it. Okay, so there was a trailing comma So we did make a mistake. So there was a mistake somewhere. You're going to tell us where it was. Info, removed trailing comma. Let's have a look. Objects, unbig, YPR. Okay, that was probably the trailing comma there, so let's just get rid of that. Let's save that. Let's try it again. Process that. So it was valid. There we go. So we had an extra comma in there. So we know our JSON is valid. We know it's going to work. So what would happen next is if we simply uploaded that to our server into the custom folder along with the cfggameplay.json file that we've updated, that would then spawn in the landmill ATC big and the landmill 10 big 3 at those coordinates, but there wouldn't be any loot in them. So the next thing we need to do is we need to spawn in the loot inside them, and we do that by adding them to the mapgrouppos. So what we do is just open up your mapgrouppos.xml, and then you just want to copy a couple of the entries down below. Give yourself some space so you know what you're doing. And what we're basically going to do, we're going to copy these because these give us the format that we need to follow. So the first thing we now do is the name. So landmill ATC big. So we can just copy that. So that's that one. And then you've got landmill big 10 3, which is that one. So the next thing we need to do is we need to put in the coordinates. So we've got X, Y, and Z. So we just X, Y, and Z. So that goes on there like that. And then the next sort of question is, so then you would do the same for the landmill 10 big, and then we've got our roll, pitch, and yaw. Now, we don't know these figures, do we? Especially we don't know our yaw. So what we do, we should set that to 0. 0.00000. And we don't know our A value either. Now what I've done is I've actually created a spreadsheet that enables you to work out your what the A value would be from what your value would be. So your value, so this one at the end, this is the rotation of the building. Now you may well have got this from your placement, but let's just say that it is 0. Okay, so it's sort of north sort of thing is kind of roughly how they work. The A value just happens to be 90 because I know that. But what I'll do is I'll put a description in the video, below the video, a link to it below the video, to my DayZ YPR to A calculator. So this is where you can take your pitch and roll, or your roll, pitch and yaw, and put the details in, and that will then tell you what your A value should be. So you can then work it out. But when you get to this point now, and then you would do the same for the landmill 10 big 3 underneath, and you would put the your value in, and then work out the relevant A value. You would then save that, and then if you upload those over the top of your existing mapgrouppos.xml, make sure you've uploaded your NEA ATC JSON to your custom folder. Make sure you've uploaded your cfggameplay.json file, and then restart your server. Those items will then spawn in, that temp will then spawn in, and that ATC tower will spawn in with those items. Now, if you make any adjustments to them, so in terms of moving them around by adjusting the yaw, which is the rotation as we think about it, you make sure that you also adjust the yaw in your mapgrouppos and the A in your mapgrouppos. Also remember that if you look at the objects, you see it goes yaw, pitch, roll. So your is first. But in map group pos, your is last. So we've got roll, pitch, your, with your being last, and then you have to put the A in. And that's how you do it. Now, the problem with doing it this way is that in terms of doing the angles and things like that, you can't be that sophisticated. So next up, what we're going to do is we're going to look at using DayZ Editor to create these files. So if we fire up DayZ Editor, now I'm not going to go into details now how to use DayZ Editor, but there's plenty of tutorials out there. But basically, you place your buildings where you want them, and then we want to export some files. So all you do is you just go File, Export, and we're interested in Export to Map Group POS. So we click on that, and then we'll call this NEAF ATC Map Group, and we'll export that. And then we'll do File, Export, Export to, where are we? JSON file. So export to com, which is that one. And we'll do NEAF ATC JSON, we'll call it. And we'll export those out. So they've now gone. So what we can do now is if we find where they're held, which just happens to be in Documents, DayZ Editor, and let's open up the JSON. So we're going to edit that one. And let's open up the map group POS. Now, this should be quite exciting if you see this, because if we look at this file that we've exported from the DayZ Editor, it looks very, very similar. If we move that one over there, if we look at the original neaftc.json file, if we compare that with the export from the editor, you can see they look very, very, very similar. Don't they? They look very, very similar. What's different is things like the name is wrong. And we've also got this scene objects is wrong. And we've got the parameter names is wrong. So, but that's not really that much of a problem, because there's a couple of ways we can go around this. We can change the names in the editor here, just using like find and replace. Or we can just copy the figures over into our proper JSON file. So it depends on how you want to do it. I tend to prefer sort of changing the names here, but for the sake of argument, let's do it the other way. So here we have land mill temp big 25. Actually, it's round the other way, so we'll probably do it the other way. So let's change this folder here. So we know this is the correct format. So name equals DayZ Editor Obiter. So R1 is just objects. So what we can do is if we copy right from that squiggle there to that squiggle there. So if we just copy, if we copy that and then go over to here and put that on top, you can see if we go backwards and forward, now they're the same. So now we know that the name of the item, it can't be called parameter 1, it should be called name. So what we can do is if we copy parameter 1 like so, and we do Control F, but we do replace, and we change parameter 1 to name, and we replace all, what you should be able to see is change name there and name there. So the next one is parameter 2. So we copy parameter 2, and we know that should be called POS. So we can do Control F, and we do find and replace, and we change parameter 2 to POS, and we replace all. So you should be able to see that now we've got POS, and the final one is parameter 3. So let's copy parameter 3, and parameter 3 should be called YPR, your pitch and roll. So let's do Control F, replace. So that should be YPR, replace all. So now let's just, we can flick backwards and forward, and we can just compare them. As we can see, now they all line up. And they're perfect. So what we can actually do in this case is we could then file, save as. I can go into my DayZ server, go into the missions, go into custom, and we'll just save it on top of that one. So we want to replace it. Ooh, probably doesn't let me do that, does it? File, save as. Go into the custom. Yes, good. So we've now done that one. So how quick was that? That was really fast, wasn't it? And what you can see, hopefully, is that the tent is actually, the yaw or the rotation is default. But with the military ATC, so with the big ATC, actually the yaw is 111 degrees. So that's good. Now, the other file that we exported was this one. And this is the mapgrouppos export from DayZ Editor. Now, at first glance, this can be very exciting, and it is, but there is an error actually, and depending on when you watch this video, this error may well have been sorted out by inclement dad. But if you look at this line here, landmill ATC big, and we look at the the roll, pitch, and yaw, we can see that the roll is 111 degrees. That's clearly wrong because the ATC isn't tipped over at all. And what's happened is when this program does the export, when DayZ Editor does the export, it doesn't put the yaw in the right place. The yaw should be at that end. So you just need to remember that when we copy these figures over. So what that means now is that we can simply copy these here, copy these two bits. So we can copy that, go straight to our mapgrouppos, and it kind of would look like that, wouldn't it? What we can do now is we can just paste them in like so. And they're virtually ready to go. So our X, Y, and Z positions are already in there, which is good. Now our roll, pitch, and yaw are round the wrong way. So what we would have to do is we would copy that, and we would put that at the end there like so. And then our other figure was 0, wasn't it? Sorry. So we copy that. And that goes over the top of there, like so. Unfortunately, the thing that's missing as well is the A value. And we need the A value. So what we can do is we can just come down here, and we could copy those. And we could paste that onto there. And we could paste that on to there. So now we've got our A values, but the problem is these A values are probably wrong. So we need, well, they are wrong, so we need to work them out. And this is where that spreadsheet comes in handy as well. So we can see for the yaw value for the tent, it's 0. So what should that be? So what we can do is we can go to our calculator and put the yaw value as 0. And so that means that the value for A is 90. Because it's less than 90 degrees if it was negative, and if it was positive 90, it's the same, so it's 90. So that means we can then go back to here, and we know this should be 90.000. Now the next one is 111.94167. So if we copy that, we paste that into there. Now this is a positive value, so if Y was positive, the value should be minus 21.9467. So if we copy that and we go over here, we can now paste that into there. And that will then give us, this will then accurately make sure that happens. So now all we need to do is we just need to save that. And then we just need to upload the mapgrouppos.xml over the top of our existing mapgrouppos.xml on our server. we need to upload our neaftc.json to the custom folder on our server, and we need to make sure that our cfggameplay.json is uploaded over to our existing folder, existing file in the folder, and obviously just make sure that, as we said right at the beginning of the video, that the enable cfggameplay.json is there. Then what you'd want to do is you'd want to restart your server and then have a look. Now, then that building should spawn in complete with loot. Now, if you're doing this on a local server, what you're probably better off doing is deleting the data folder so that you're starting afresh, so it gets rid of the central economy. You don't need to do that on your remote Nitrado server for PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. You'll find the stuff will start spawning in again. But there we go. Hopefully that's given you a good idea of how this works. I know it's a little bit complicated, but once you've done a few of these, it all does sort of start to click in, especially the things with the converting the role, pitch, and yaw to the A value, or the yaw value to the A value. But I'll put links to all these articles in the description below the video to help you along. And I'm particularly very excited. I'm very excited to see what custom JSON files the community comes up with over the next few weeks and months. Anyway, that's enough from me. Hit like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more of the same, and I'll see you again soon.